of driving and driving when you're texting, and then Corey will go over the fleet policy with us as soon as he gets here. So let's go ahead and get started.
Hi, I'm Don Dawson. You know, we do so much driving that it's easy to forget how dangerous it can be. But road accidents claim almost 35,000 lives and cause more than 2 million serious injuries every year. Fortunately, most accidents can be prevented. You can avoid trouble on the road if you approach your driving with the right skills, a well-maintained vehicle, and the right attitude. And here's more good news. You can start being a safer driver even before you put the key in the ignition. Are you ready to drive safely? Before you answer that, ask yourself if your vehicle is ready, because keeping your car in good mechanical condition is key to preventing trouble on the road. Annual state inspections will help you with this, and so will following the service schedule recommended by your vehicle's manufacturer. But your vehicle has some critical parts that you should pay attention to regularly. Tires keep your vehicle secure on the road. Check their condition, keep them at proper pressure, and replace them as needed. Put a tire pressure gauge in your glove box if you haven't already got one. Windshield wipers keep your windshield clean and help you to see in bad weather. Make sure the blades are in good shape and clear your windshield effectively. Remember to keep the washer fluid topped off too. Brakes enable you to control your speed and stop your vehicle. If you notice any unusual noise or vibration when braking, or have difficulty stopping, get your brakes checked immediately and repaired if necessary. Don't forget about emergency supplies. All vehicles should have basic equipment on board. Unless you have run flats, this starts with a properly inflated spare tire, a tire iron and jack. Then put together a kit that includes a snow brush and ice scraper, accident warning indicators such as flares or a flashing light, jumper cables, an emergency blanket or two, a small shovel, and a flashlight. The next question to ask yourself before setting out is, have I prepared for this trip? Start by adjusting your vehicle for safety and comfort. Position your seat for good back support. Be sure that your feet can easily reach the pedals and operate them. Adjust your rear and side mirrors to minimize blind spots. If you're driving a rental or company vehicle that you aren't used to, take some time to locate the important controls and learn to use them. Familiarize yourself with the car's handling. Try out the steering. See how much stopping distance you need at various speeds. Remember, larger vehicles and those with heavy loads require more stopping distance. Finally, stop in at the gas station and fill her up. Check the oil while you're at it and tire pressure too. Now, are you ready to drive safely? You still can't answer yes if you're under the influence of drugs or alcohol. Even one drink can slow your reflexes and impair your judgment. Drugs do the same. In fact, more than half of all fatal accidents involve drugs or alcohol. You also can't say you're ready to drive safely if you're not wearing your seatbelt. Being in an accident at 30 miles per hour without a seatbelt is like hitting the ground after falling off a 3-story building. And wearing a seatbelt doubles your chances of surviving any crash. Like driving aware, awake and sober, wearing your seatbelt is really a no-brainer, which is why you should ask your passengers to wear theirs too. Now that you're ready and your car is ready, let's head out for some on-the-road instruction in the basics of driving safety. Road signs help you avoid problems by warning you of the conditions ahead, so you know what to expect and can plan for it. Pay attention to the posted speed limits. They take the road-specific conditions, visibility, and traffic patterns into account. Going any faster just isn't safe. Also, the faster you go, the less time you have to react and the more space you need to stop. A dangerous combination. So when you're in traffic, create a safety cushion of space between yourself and the vehicles around you. This will let you maneuver safely in an emergency. Begin by establishing the following distance between you and the car ahead. Watch the car in front of you. When it passes a landmark like a tree or telephone pole, count how many seconds it takes before you reach that same point. If it's less than 3 seconds, slow down and back off. You're too close. If you run into a challenging condition like heavy traffic, you need to adjust by adding another second to the following distance. If it's raining or snowing, add 2 more seconds. If another driver cuts in front of you, just slow down until you once again have a safe distance between yourself and that vehicle. Stay in the center of your lane and allow plenty of side space in your safety cushion. Check your mirrors regularly to keep track of traffic behind you as well. What should you do when you want to pass another car? First, make sure it's safe and legal to pass. Look at the lines in the middle of the road. Solid lines mean you can't see far enough to pass safely, so don't. If you see a sign that says "Do not pass," don't pass. The sign is there for a reason. When you get to where you can pass, remember to look before you leap. Check the road ahead and behind to make sure there's enough room. Before you pull out, use your turn signal to tell other drivers that you intend to pass. When you pass, pass quickly. Don't linger in the other driver's blind spot. If you can't see them in their side mirror, they can't see you either. But don't cut off the vehicle you're passing by merging back into their lane too soon. Wait until you can see both of their headlights in your rearview mirror. Then signal and pull back in. Sharing the road with cars is pretty straightforward, but when you're with other types of vehicles, it pays to remember how easily we miss seeing things we're not looking for. That's why more than half of fatal motorcycle accidents involve vehicles driven by people who just didn't see the motorcycle. Even when you are aware that there are motorcycles in the vicinity, they're small enough to easily disappear into your blind spots or behind other cars. A motorcycle's small size can also make it difficult to judge its distance and speed. Stay on the safe side by assuming that it's closer and going faster than it appears to be. Mini cars are bigger than motorcycles, but not by much, so they share many of the same problems in traffic. So you need to keep your eyes peeled for them too, particularly in town and city traffic. Be alert and drive carefully in their vicinity. At the other end of the scale are trucks, RVs, and buses. They are longer, wider, and heavier than cars, and have bigger blind spots too. A tractor trailer can weigh up to 80,000 pounds, and at 50 miles an hour requires at least 300 feet to brake to a standstill. To share the road safely with large vehicles, allow extra following distance when you're behind one, since they're so hard to see around. Following closely also robs you of reaction time, because you won't know anything's happening until the truck's brake lights go on, and that could be too late. Plus, when you're trying to read road signs, you won't be able to see them in time to react to what they say. following too closely makes it difficult for the truck driver to see you as well. You're in one of his blind spots, a place you really don't want to be. If you can't see the side mirrors on a truck's cab, then you're invisible to its driver. Stay back far enough that you both can see the big picture. One extra-large vehicle deserves special attention: the school bus. School buses transport large numbers of children. They constantly stop and start to pick kids up and drop them off. And the children often dart across the road to get to and from the bus. That's why special traffic laws apply when you're sharing the road with a school bus. If you encounter a school bus on a 2-lane road and the bus is stopped with its red lights flashing, you must stop as well, whether you're behind the bus, approaching it from the other direction, or on an intersecting road. On 3 or 4-lane roads, state laws vary, but most states require that traffic in all directions still stop, unless there is a median or guardrail dividing the highway. In that case, oncoming traffic can keep moving, but traffic behind the bus must always stop. Once you have stopped for a school bus, you must wait until it turns off its flashing lights and retracts any swing arms before you start moving again. It's a fact. Driving is more dangerous at night. Even though there are fewer cars on the road when it's dark, that's when more than half of all accidents happen. So slow down and use your headlights. You should switch your headlights on when the light begins to fade at dusk or in gloomy weather. Not only do they help you see what's ahead, they make it easier for other drivers to see you as well. But don't overdrive your headlights by going too fast. You'll make it impossible to react quickly enough to what you can see. Your high beams can extend your reaction time a bit, so use them as much as possible. But you'll still want to maintain a moderate speed. Remember, too, that your high beams can blind the drivers of the cars in front of you. A good rule of thumb is to switch to low beams when the spray of your lights reaches that of oncoming cars, or when it reaches the bumper of a car you're following. Your high beams can blind you too if you turn them on in fog or snow. In fact, bad weather poses a number of special challenges. If you're going to drive safely in bad weather, you have to be prepared. Allow yourself extra travel time. Get the weather forecast, as well as information on road conditions and any delays you may encounter. Plan your trip accordingly, and think about alternate routes you can use just in case. Before you leave, clear any snow and ice off your vehicle's windows and all its lights and turn signals as well. Wet and snowy weather also makes the road slippery, so keep your speed down and increase your following distance. Apply your brakes sooner when coming to a stop, and slow down before you get to turns and curves. Depress the brake pedal slowly and gradually. Many drivers today simply aren't paying attention. They're what we call distracted drivers. Distracted driving has been linked to as many as 1 in 4 accidents. It kills and injures hundreds of thousands of people annually. Common distractions behind the wheel include talking and texting on a cell phone, eating and drinking, putting on makeup, adjusting the sound system, and talking to passengers, especially children. Fortunately, you can take steps ahead of time to avoid distraction. Finish dressing, makeup, and grooming before leaving the house. pre-record a message on your cell phone telling callers that you're on the road and will call them back later. Turn your phone off and stow it out of reach. Pre-program your GPS and review the navigation. Preset your car radio and preload CDs or playlists. Before you turn the key, ensure that kids and other passengers are seated and buckled up, and that pets are secured as well. These potential distractions become critical as you take to the road. You can't allow yourself to do anything that forces you to take your eyes off the road, your hands off the wheel, or your mind off your driving. Instead, remember this: when in doubt, pull over. If you have to deal with a kid's issue, or you want to check your email or make a call, pull over and stop. On the highway, you can do this on the shoulder or in the breakdown lane. Remember to put on your emergency flashers. In town, just pull into a parking space. What should you do when you find yourself sharing the road with a distracted driver? First, be careful. Assume they don't see you. Pull ahead or drop behind to give them a wide berth. Above all, stay focused on your own driving. Road rage is another problem that we're seeing more and more of. Each year, there are thousands of reports of road rage. Drivers yelling at one another, making obscene gestures, even using their vehicles like weapons. To prevent yourself from getting angry, remember that driving isn't a contest. Don't retaliate. Give other drivers the benefit of the doubt. Be polite and courteous, even when other drivers aren't. If an angry driver starts harassing you, rule 1 is never make eye contact. Angry drivers see this as a challenge, and it just increases their rage. Instead, try to get away from them as quickly and safely as possible. Leave the road you're on if necessary. If they follow you, take the threat seriously. Stay on well-traveled roads. Drive to the nearest police station, find a police officer, or call 911. Tires go flat and accidents happen. When something goes wrong while you're on the road, you need to stay calm so you can stabilize and resolve the situation. Sometimes the worst does happen, even to the safest drivers. If you're involved in an accident, here's how to handle it. First, turn off your engine and turn on your flashers. Don't try to move your car unless you're in immediate danger. Check any other vehicles involved. If anyone is injured, do not move them. You may do more harm than good. Instead, call for medical assistance. Never leave the scene of an accident. Even if you only walk away, it's a hit and run, and you can be arrested for it. Always contact the police immediately. Call 911, or if that's not possible, have a passerby do it for you. Be ready with your driver's license, registration, and proof of insurance. You'll need to exchange this information with other drivers and show it to the police as well. And don't forget to call your insurance company. If the accident happened while you're working or in a company vehicle, report it to your supervisor immediately. We've seen that driving safely requires thinking ahead, being proactive, and doing things that can help to avoid dangerous situations on the road. Let's review. Make sure your car is well maintained. Always wear a seatbelt. Never drive under the influence. Maintain a safety cushion around your vehicle with at least a 3-second following distance. Watch out for smaller vehicles and use caution when sharing the road with trucks, RVs, and buses. Reduce speed and be especially careful at night and in bad weather. Don't let yourself get distracted or angry while you're driving. and know how to cope with drivers who are. If you're involved in an accident, remain calm and call the police. Never leave the scene. The driver's seat doesn't have to be a dangerous place. Bring the proper attitude, preparation, and knowledge behind the wheel with you, and you take a giant step toward arriving safely at your destination.
So texting and driving, it's the new age of the technology that we deal with today. I think the important thing when it comes to texting and driving is that all of us have a responsibility to our family and to our friends to put those phones down, put that technology away when we're behind the wheel. Texting and driving has become the new driving under the influence in this country. I get on the roads very early every morning, and I can tell you that there's not a day that goes by where I don't pass a vehicle where someone's in the driver's seat behind the wheel texting and driving. And you can always tell because they're all over the road as if they have been drinking and impaired. And unfortunately, they don't think about the family and the friends and the other lives that they impact. When they decide that they want to get on that phone and send a message to their friend or to a family member. And maybe you put it in this perspective and think about it this way. What happens in the middle of you texting when you crash that car and you don't get to go home and your family member realizes you were sending that message to them at the time you made that ultimate mistake?
Sending that quick text while driving to the office seems harmless enough. What can it hurt? I mean, it only takes a few seconds, right? What could happen in a few seconds? This could, and it did. Was it worth it? We're all aware talking and driving has been deemed unsafe, but know this, texting and driving is actually more dangerous than talking on the phone while driving. Why put yourself or others at risk? Maybe you think it's not that dangerous. If you're writing or reading text messages while operating a vehicle, your reaction time is reduced by approximately 35%. That 35% could be the difference between life and death. We're not trying to scare you, but merely present the devastating facts and statistics about texting while driving. Can you afford to ignore them? One of the most surprising facts involving distracted driving is that this activity is actually more dangerous than driving while under the influence of alcohol. None of us believe it's okay to drink and drive, yet many believe texting while driving is okay. Are you one of them? Many states in the USA have banned texting, and others are sure to follow suit. Be sure to check your state laws and company policy in regards to texting while behind the wheel. More likely than not, it isn't permitted under any circumstances. So what should you do if you get an urgent text or email that needs an immediate response? The answer is, pull off the road to a safe location and park your car. Then you may respond to the text or email. Not only will this make you safer, it will allow you to give your full attention to the message you're typing. How many times do you see misspelled words or incorrect grammar from a colleague or friend? I bet it was written while not giving their full attention to the message because they were preoccupied with something else, like driving perhaps. This should never be the case. Not only does it make you look unprofessional, but it also puts you and everyone else around you at risk. The National Safety Council has determined roughly 28% of car crashes, or 1.6 million accidents per year, happen because a driver is texting while behind the wheel. Most of the accidents taking place involve teenagers and young adults in their 20s who are texting and driving. Does this mean if you're a seasoned driver, you're capable of safely sending a message while driving? Most definitely not. Texting is just more popular among the younger generation in comparison with people over 30 years of age. which is why the statistics lean towards 16 to 28-year-olds being involved in the majority of texting and driving accidents. But like we said, this does not mean it's safe for anyone to text and drive. It only takes that one text to change not only your life, but also your family's life forever. Texting while driving distracts drivers in 3 ways. The first, it takes the driver's eyes off the road, both to find the phone and then to read the message. Second, you may tend to let go of the steering wheel, thinking the car will drive straight for the few seconds it takes to type a response. And third, and most dangerous, it diverts the driver's attention and concentration away from their primary task, driving. It may only take 2 seconds to send a quick response through a text, but in that 2 seconds you spent looking at your phone, your vehicle traveled 165 feet. A lot can happen in 165 feet. That's 12 car lengths, or half a football field. It's the same thing as closing your eyes for a full 2 seconds while driving. It's not a good idea. A recent survey found that 1 in 5 drivers text while driving. That figure rises to 1 in 3 for people between the ages of 18 to 34. These numbers are disturbing because it's not only the driver who is texting who is at risk, it's everyone around the driver who can potentially be harmed or even killed. Now you may say, I always text and drive. I'm good at it. Nothing like this would ever happen to me. Well, we are going to speak with a few drivers that felt the same way until texting and driving directly affected their lives forever. Here are their stories.
I was just like you. I didn't believe it could happen to me. I had over 11 years of driving experience, not one accident. Before I knew it, the next text I sent ended that streak. Not only did I endanger myself, but I put the lives around me at risk, including my 6-year-old daughter. An easy Friday morning turned into one of the worst days of my life. I looked down to text I love you. When I had looked up, everyone had stopped but me. I didn't have enough time to apply the brakes. I rear-ended the car in front of me and scared the life out of my daughter. The weight of my guilt is indescribable. I have heard plenty of horror stories about texting and driving. I just didn't think it could happen to me. Now that it has, my outlook has changed completely. Not even an I love you is worth the risk. I now know I should pull over or just wait till I get to my destination before pulling out my phone. It's just not worth it. Learn from me. It can happen to anybody.
He was able to walk away from the accident, but it didn't have to take a first-hand experience to learn texting and driving is unsafe. This is only one incident out of the 1.6 million accidents that happen per year. Let's hear the story of a second texting and driving accident, which unfortunately didn't turn out as well.
Hello, I'm Officer Hernandez. I'm here to tell you a story about an accident a young guy named Eric had a while back on this very road. Unfortunately, Eric can't tell the story himself because he's no longer with us today. It was a real tragedy what happened. Eric was driving southbound on this road here to pick up his little sister from school. He was doing about 45 miles an hour. I was in my radio car just to my right on this side street. As Eric passed, he didn't see me at all. He was too distracted by his phone, looking up and down, not paying attention. There was another vehicle in the left-hand turn lane waiting to hang a left into the residential neighborhood just ahead of us. Eric slammed into the back of that car at about 45 miles an hour. I was right behind him when it happened, so I was the first one on scene. I arrived, Eric wasn't breathing. I radioed for paramedics. When they arrived, they weren't able to revive him. He was pronounced dead at the scene. Just imagine if Eric's little sister had already been picked up and they were both in the car. That would have been 2 lives lost. Texting and driving really isn't worth the risk. I just wish Eric would have realized this before it was too late.
It's sad that the choices we make can have a lasting effect on people's lives forever, even if we never intended them to. Please take this topic seriously. It could make all the difference. Never text and drive. If you absolutely have to reply and cannot wait till you reach your destination, pull off the road. You'll be doing yourself and everyone else on the road a favor. Thanks for watching.
Okay, I would like to turn the time over to Corey. and he'll go over the fleet policies with us.
Such a big audience today. Huge. What the heck? The best of the best. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. The ladies showed up.
The what?
I said the ladies showed up.
What are you telling us?
Saying none of the guys are here.
Okay. I want to take just a couple of minutes and go over some of the fleet policy. Just a refresher for everybody. I'll be impersonal if I do that. I'd rather be it's got me. It's got me right there. That'll be good. So I'll just go over a couple of things on the fleet policy, just go through and talk about. There's been a couple of misconceptions. There's been some things not getting done when we have accidents and that, and just want to make sure everybody understands really kind of where we're going with this. Ownership of all vehicles are Box Elder County. They're not an individual department. They are owned by the county. So I just want to make sure everybody understands that. In order to drive a vehicle, you have to have a valid Utah driver's license. Anybody that drives vehicles, we run a check on annually. It just gets automatically done. So if you have an accident, a DUI, or anything like that, you need to report it immediately. If you lose your license and you drive a vehicle, you need to report that immediately. Make sure that we know that. We do a rotation on the vehicles. Pretty much the police department or the sheriff's department and now the assessor's office are the ones that get the new vehicles. That the budgeted money goes through them. They hit the road first as sheriff's vehicles and trucks, and then they get sent out to the rest of the county to put more miles on them, and then we wind up putting them on auction and selling them. That's the system that we have right now, and that's kind of the way the CIP is running the program for that. So the assessor's office has got specialized funds that have to go to a vehicle. The road department also gets some capital improvement monies or Class 3 road money that buys specialized vehicles for them. But the majority of the vehicles all rotate through the sheriff's office and then go out to us to utilize after that. So trying to maintain the cost on them and keep them down. So that's kind of how that rolls on that. Funding method is normal replacement. We're trying not to build the fleet at all because just having the vehicle winds up getting expensive, especially if it doesn't get used, and we wind up doing maintenance and upkeep on it for that. So we try not to build it. When we get into a replacement type style or situation, then we will take one of the new vehicles and replace it. So if you've got a vehicle that's getting up in mileage, I know Mitch is getting there pretty soon and some of the others, you need to let us know. We put that into the system and try and earmark one of the vehicles from the next coming year for it. Once in a while, we've had a couple of emergencies where we've had to shift and divert some of the ones coming out of the sheriff's office and put them in place where they needed it because they broke down. We just don't have a lot of vehicles. When you have a vehicle assigned to you, it's your department's responsibility to do maintenance and upkeep on that. If something breaks, you need to fix it. And then when we do finally trade those vehicles out and auction them off, then the money goes back into CIP, and that's where it rolls through and to help buy more vehicles in the future. We do have the motor pool vehicle. We make sure that we try and upgrade those the best we can. Those are the ones you go check out for Mariana. Just take those when you bring them back. Make sure that, try and bring them back full if you can. I mean, I realize if you're just going to grab a vehicle and run down to Walmart or something like that, I understand. But if you're going to go out of town with it or go to Salt Lake when you bring it back, just a courtesy to have it full for the next person. Any issues with it, please report us so we can get them fixed immediately. Try and take care of that.
Make sure you get garbage out of them too.
Yeah, try and bring it back to the way you found it. Better. Yeah, bring it back better. If it needs to be washed, let us know. We'll take them down and run them through the car wash. We've got cars to do that and get them taken care of. So, wear all passenger seat belts at all times. No tobacco use in any of the vehicles. No smoking. No chew. No tobacco use. It says no tobacco use, not just no smoking. So, The gas cards, all vehicles come with a gas card. Make sure and utilize that, keep it full. Any damage to a vehicle needs to be reported to your immediate supervisor, the risk manager, and myself, the fleet manager, immediately. Doesn't say within.
The risk manager.
Jenica.
You have to repeat.
Jenica, okay, who is the risk? I didn't, that wasn't a question. Oh, you asked a question. Who's the risk manager? It is Jenica. Okay, the risk manager, Jenica, your immediate supervisor, and myself as the fleet manager. There was an allusion that it had to be within 24 hours or whatever else. It says immediately. So let us know if it's, depending on what, we may be out on the scene taking pictures and helping document. So, requirements, Utah driver's license, 18 or older, can't be under suspension, denied. You can read through this. Alcohol, drugs cannot be transported in county vehicles. 2 or more accidents in a year. Convicted driving under the influence, you're out. We don't need CDL. Vehicle availability. If you're assigned a vehicle and it's needed elsewhere for a weekend, they can say we can come pick them up and take them and reassign them temporarily at any time. Sometimes there's extenuating circumstances that come up that we need another vehicle. Typically, it's a cooperation thing, going, hey, can we borrow your truck for this weekend, and we need to send it out. So, we're going to come and say, Mitch, we just can't have your truck this week. We'll work out something. Okay. If you're involved in an accident, any accident involving a county employee or county vehicle cannot be investigated by our deputies. It needs to be an outside agency. So Highway Patrol, Brigham City, Tremont, Garland, depending on where you're at, the local jurisdiction. If it's out in the county, our deputies, we've had a couple of problems in the past where they've gone ahead and investigated them and taken the reports. Just remember, we need an outside agency to come in and do this. So there's accident packets in the vehicle. If you'll read under the deal, you don't admit fault, don't do this, just exchange the information, give the report, and go from there. There was one that was kind of important that I wanted to hit real quick. Boom, and I lost it in here. Okay. The following are unauthorized uses of county vehicles. Use of county vehicles and or motorized equipment for transport of family members, other employees, or private citizens for personal business, recreation, etc. is prohibited. Anyway, use it for personal uses not intended or relevant to Box Elder County businesses, use of alcohol or other substances that could impede judgment, any tobacco products in a county fleet vehicle is prohibited. So, other questions? Remember, they are county vehicles. They're not personal vehicles. A lot of times they get tended to use that way, especially when you take them home with you every night. We just need to be careful and be prudent and make sure that if somebody questions it, we have a reasonable explanation of why that vehicle is where it is. We've got calls because one was sitting in the Walmart parking lot in Logan. Okay, and the vehicle was involved in a funeral. It was Lynn Yates' funeral. Yeah, somebody stopped at Walmart on the way home. Is that approved? Is that inapproved? Is it inappropriate? I don't think so. Yeah, they were just picking up stuff on the way back. So I mean that's totally appropriate. So we have to be reasonable. Okay. Other questions?